So let me just outline a few of these arguments. One would be the contingency argument for God's existence. And this argument basically goes like this. Premise one, that everything that exists has an explanation of its existence, either in the necessity of its own nature or else in some external cause. Secondly, the universe exists. So from those first two premises, it follows that the universe has an explanation for its existence, either in the necessity of its own nature or else in some sort of an external cause. The third premise is that the best explanation for the existence of the universe is a personal, transcendent mind, from which it therefore follows that a personal, transcendent cause of the universe exists. Now, that's just an outline of the argument. In order to flesh it out and defend each premise, you'd have to do more work. This is one of the most popular and oldest arguments for the existence of God in Western philosophy. And I was shocked in Dawkins' book, he doesn't even talk about this argument. He just completely ignores it. And yet I think this is a very good argument for thinking that there is a personal, transcendent cause of the universe that explains its existence.
Okay, so when you talk about a transcendent personal cause, just explain that to us briefly.
The idea here is that everything that exists has some kind of explanation why it exists. Either it exists by a necessity of its own nature. What would be an example of that? Well, many philosophers think that mathematical objects exist in this way, things like numbers and sets and other mathematical objects. If these things exist, they don't have causes of their existence. They simply exist by a necessity of their own nature. It's impossible for them not to exist. Other things are contingent in their existence. That is to say, they have external causes for why they exist, that explain why they exist. Examples would be things like mountains and people and trees and chairs and galaxies. These have external causes. And the point is that everything that exists has an explanation that exists, why it exists, either in an external cause or in some sort of necessity of its own nature. So that's what we mean when we talk about an explanation of something's existence. And the argument is that since the universe doesn't exist by a necessity of its own nature, the universe is not a necessary being like a mathematical object. It must have an explanation in an external cause. And this cause would have to be something that is beyond the universe, and therefore beyond space, beyond time, beyond matter and energy, a non-physical, immaterial, spiritual entity which has brought the universe into being. And the only thing that we know that could fit that kind of description would be an unembodied mind, a consciousness, a sort of transcendent consciousness without a body that brought space-time and all of its contents into existence.
Okay, so you're moving now into the argument from creation, the cosmological argument a little bit, in the sense that we're saying now this uncaused cause, this thing that didn't have to be here is here. So we'll talk about the second argument that I know you present, which is the cosmological argument.
Right. It's closely related to this argument. The first argument, the contingency argument, doesn't presuppose that the universe had a beginning. The universe could have always been there, for all this argument cares. But it's saying that since anything that exists has an explanation, there must be an explanation for why, say, an eternal universe exists, rather than just nothing. And that would be found in, as I say, a transcendent cause.